Oh, my dear Bertha, you've finally come home to me. I thought you never would. It's been over 12 years since I've last seen you. You are a sight for sore eyes, my love. Yeah, guys, welcome back. Today is a monumental day. We have Bertha Butterswagon on the table, and that name should mean a lot to you. She was originally going to come out in 2010 as a final lap single. She's commonly associated with Benny Caliper here, who also is going to be released as a final lap single alongside her. Both Benny and Bertha were leaked out from Chinese factories, basically prototypes, even though they were fully complete. A few of them exist, and that's how I was able to get my hands on both of these. These are 2010 prototype versions of them. I have reviewed both of them on my channel. We'll do a nice side-by-side comparison between the now Thailand-made Bertha and the previously Chinese prototype version. And yeah, it's going to be a fun video. I mean, oh my gosh, I'm just relishing in the fact that we finally got a release of her. I'm honestly shocked just because of all the other cars that they could have done. They chose to revisit one that they canceled 12 years ago. Also, this model has not yet been made in Thailand. Poly Puddle Jumper is the only car that shares Bertha's model here, and they have not done her yet from Thailand, whereas they have done Benny's model quite a bit from Thailand because he is the same model as Dash Boardman, who they have done from Thailand, for example. Same thing with Matthew True Blumacrew. But regardless, she is from 2022 Singles Case J, which for a lot of people, yeah, it kind of brings up some bad feelings. It causes a little turmoil in the stomach because of the fact that it has not been widely available yet, really anywhere. I know I've told this story a billion times across all my videos pertaining to it, whether it be Gigahall 8, Gigahall 9, probably the Dana Crankoff video in a couple days, or maybe even tomorrow, Revney Grillante, who I'll link in the description below and card suggestion pop up in the top right-hand corner. But to keep it short and sweet, and we'll take a closer look here at the package for Bertha. Case J was found first in full, the full 24 count case in Greece in mid-July, and it was basically exclusive there for nearly a month until a reseller in the United States obtained a couple and sold them privately, not on his website or anything like that, so it was very low-key and under the table. Then Walmart got in the 12 count case version of Case J, which does not have Bertha, nor does it have Dana Crankoff, who is the other one of the new releases in this case. This case also has a new Thailand variant of Bling Bling Lightning McQueen and Dexter Hoover. The Walmart version has Bling Bling McQueen, but not Dexter Hoover. It also lacks Kathy Copter, Yellow Hydraulic Ramon, and Barry DePedal. I think I said that right. I might have repeated myself there. I also meant to say Kabuto. Those guys are not in the Walmart version of them, but they are brand new to 2022 packaging. So it really kind of stinks that some of the more notable releases from the case are lacking in Walmart's version of it. So really the only things you can get from Case J at Walmart are Revney Grillante, who's a new one, so I'll give them credit there, and the Thailand version of Bling Bling McQueen. Everything else in that Case J that Walmart's getting has been in a previous case. So to say it's simply Case J, the Walmart version of it, which only has 12 cars instead of the usual 24, really sucks, okay? So then Fred Meyer's, which is a Northwest regional type store in the United States, a more grocery type store like Kroger, got the case in full. And so I'm pretty sure that's where this one came from. It has its own unique sticker on it, which I presume Fred Meyer put on it. So I'm not really sure about that, but because I have a United States Dana Crankoff as well, and it doesn't have this sticker, so I'm not entirely sure. Maybe there's another store in the US that also got them, because we know this is an American card right here. This is an international card that only shows Bertha, gives a whole bunch of other languages, blah, blah, blah. You can only tell from the back, though, because the fronts are identical, so keep that in mind. But yeah, the United States versions show a bunch of other releases. So you can see Kathy Copter, which is another Case J exclusive so far. Dexter Hoover, another Case J exclusive. All these other ones were in other cases like Damaged King. Charlie Checker is going to be in a future case. Murray Clutchburn, Brad Windmiller and Lightning McQueen would sign there. At least they got this right, though, as seen in Cars. Very good, Mattel. But yeah, to make a long story short, again, I know it's a lot of complicated details going on with Case J. I really hate explaining it all because a lot of people aren't fully used to the idea of these 12-count cases that Walmart is getting. Basically, I don't know why they're deciding to go that route, because they're choosing to really hurt themselves. Because when I went to Walmart the other day, I found Case J, right? I found 3 Case Js, but the contents were so repetitive that they're going to have a harder time selling 3 12-count versions of J than just one 24-count version of J. Or even just 2 Case Js. I mean, you have 4 Bling Bling McQueens then. You have 2 Revney Grillantes that'll probably go pretty quickly. And then you have a bunch of other stuff that's been previous cases. Now, if you design these 12-count cases to have the new stuff and the new stuff absolutely, like you make sure that it has Dana, you make sure it has Bertha, you make sure it has the 2022 packaging releases like Kabuto, Barry the Pedal, Kathy Copter, etc., then I would get it. Like, then that would make sense. But that's not what they're doing. In fact, more than not, the new releases are excluded from the Walmart cases. We saw this with Jay with VR headset. We saw this with Keith Cone. It's absolutely absurd. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. But that is the route that they have decided to go in. And that is all I'll say about the matter. Hopefully this case hits some more stores soon. I mean, if it's Target, we're fine, because Target gets in the full 24 versions of the case. So then Bertha will be plentiful. Dana should be plentiful, and Revney already is getting to that point. And we'll have nothing to worry about. But right now, this case has kind of gotten shafted a little bit. I think it's also being found somewhere in the UK. I think Smith's is getting it perhaps. So that's good, but nowhere in Australia, Canada, South, or Latin America either. All right, guys, I'll be right back with Bertha all opened up. Here is Bertha all opened up, and she is looking phenomenal. I can already spot out quite a few differences between the Chinese version and this new Thailand one, and we'll get into that in a bit here. But I want to address a question that comes up a lot. A lot of people ask me this when it comes to Mattel uncanceling releases, because I'm known to be an avid collector of canceled releases. You know, I seek out those prototypes. I'm willing to spend a little extra money to get them because they aren't cheap for sure. They're very scarce and you have to be patient. You know, I've collected these things over the years. It's not like you could just go out and be like, oh, hey, can I go grab one of those canceled Benny calipers? Like, no, you really can't. You have to wait for your opportunity, and it may and it likely would take many, many years for that opportunity to come around. And if it does, you're lucky that it did. And so when Mattel uncancels a car like Bertha, people are like, well, now you're just wasting money, right? If Mattel could uncancel any car, they uncanceled the reindeer. So if they can do that, I feel like almost anything's on the table, right? Maybe not Plains characters, but almost all the cars, right? And you're absolutely right. Like, I could totally see them uncanceling Benny Caliber at any given moment, especially because his model has already been done twice now from Thailand. So it'd be an easy repaint, absolutely. They could do an N2O Cola Pity. They could do a Mood Springs Pity, just like they did Bertha here. But I know that risk, and I'm willing to accept it when I purchase these canceled cars. I love doing it. You know, it's part of the hunt that I really enjoy. It's one of my favorite parts of the hobby. It's kind of an additional layer to it that, you know, if you can afford it, you can really dive into it and enjoy that realm, meet a whole bunch of new people who are really serious about the hobby. And to me, I know a lot of people also think that I must be disappointed that they ended up releasing Bertha, because this version now is drastically depreciated. The value of the Chinese prototype here has gone down considerably. And, you know, at first I'm like, yeah, that kind of sucks. But truly, though, I'm happy for everyone that was an opportunity to get Bertha. Like, I don't want to be selfish. Like, it's a complete dick thing to say if I were to be like, yeah, no one else deserves to have Bertha. I can't believe they re-released her. Like, first of all, it's completely in with Mattel's capabilities to release any car. And I mean, this is great. It absolutely is. Bertha's an iconic character from the movie. I'm actually really pleased that they decided to release her this year. She is a salvaging component for 2022 after a very slow start to the year, and there's been a lot of rocky parts to it. And to have, a car like her, that's actually really cool. And so don't get me wrong, it might be a little disappointing at first, but I'm not going to sell this Bertha ever. I have no intention of ever selling any of my canceled cars, and so I don't really care all that much. I'm really just happy for everybody else. But yeah, guys, I'm going to toss a picture from the movie now of Bertha. Again, she appears on the highway when Mack is looking into the mirror, basically, of the gas tanker there. You can see his reflection, and Bertha's just like, "What are you doing, man?" And I love how they were able to emulate the expression perfectly here. You can see it almost matches Bertha on the card, even though her eyes are going to the left, but her eyes are going to the right here. So that's the only difference, but the models are pretty much identical, and they don't always emulate the card art for the diecast. Like if you look at Revney Grillante, no. Dana Crankoff, no. Half the time, and honestly most of the time, the card art does not match the expression on the diecast. Here, though, because of the fact it's so iconic, I think it's extremely important that they did emulate that expression. But yeah, first off, you can see that the greens are a little bit different. I'd say she's a little bit more metallic, a little darker. You can definitely see a little bit more sparkle in her paint. Her headlights there look a little smaller. Now, of course, back in 2010, that whole era, they really loved using these mouth plates here so they could switch out the bumpers basically and put new models on, like for Poly Puddle Jumper here. You could change it out pretty easily. Make it plastic so it's cheaper, and you could make new expressions, right? Whatever you need. They don't really do that anymore. I think they were able to find a solution in which it's really standardized to just do everything on the metal mold. The only thing that they separate now are the eyes, so this is now a separate piece. Whereas before, that was part of the main metal body on most cars. There were some where it wasn't, but most cars, it was. And so, yeah, they've definitely changed and innovated on ways to more cheaply produce the Disney cars. But you can see here that the grills are a little bit different. It's more black and a little bit slimmer than it was on the Chinese version. The model looks to be a little wider. I'm not sure I'm a big fan on that. I don't think it should be quite as wide as it is on the Thailand version, but it looks fine. Now, I do have to say I prefer the eyes on the Chinese version. I think they look a little bit more accurate to the movie. Like, everything just looks a little bit more squunched up on the Thailand version. Like, you could see that the eyelids are a little squintier, and the eyes are much more centered in between them. They look a little smaller. Like this, you could see that she's really like stretching her eyes and her forehead up toward Mack there, because she's a tiny car, right? She has to really look up to see what Mack is doing. I mean, that scene just looks great right there. And so I'm not sure it looks quite as good with the Thailand version. She doesn't look like she's looking up as much as she's just looking to the side. So that is one complaint I do have about the expression here, and I probably will end up saying my favorite version between these two is the Chinese version. I still prefer that one. You can see here that the side view mirrors are also different, and I'd say that the Chinese version is far more accurate. Take a look. There's your card art. That looks pretty much the same, whereas here, they're much closer to the main metal body, and that's because they wanted to make them part of the main metal body, whereas here they are additional plastic pieces. So it's all about kind of standardizing the process, removing extra steps, making it more efficient, removing margin for error. Because, hey, I've seen cars that are errors because they're missing their side view mirrors, right? Like that happens. I have a Raoul Cerule. You guys saw me pull it from a case, literally in a store, that does not have side view mirrors. And that's because it's an additional plastic piece. That's not going to happen, right? There's no way that's going to slip out of quality control without the entire metal body, because that's what would have to happen for it not to have side view mirrors, right? Now the rims are pretty much the same. They look a little bit more silver on the Thailand version. Now, I know I've talked about this before, and this is a perfect example of the ML115 license plate that they've overused. They've used this on a ton of cars, especially Cars 1 characters. In fact, I have one right here. Jay Lowly, the Super Chase from 2016, has it. And he's certainly not the only one. I think MA Brake Drum has it. I think Gil, even the Semi-Gil has it. Now, I do have to say the license plate looks better on the Thailand version, which is actually pretty rare to say. Usually the license plates on the Thailand versions look worse. For example, Mel Dorado. Check out my video on that. But the Chinese version looks a little small. The border around it's just green. Here they made the border around it silver, and the ML115 is very bold. So, of course, my only complaint about it is the fact that, this license plate number is not unique. They've used it a ton of times. I think it would have really excited me, honestly, if they made that license plate different. This technically is a prototype, so they could have made a bunch of changes, but it looks like they really just followed how they were going to make it 12 years ago. It's like they had the file, they had everything all set up, and they were just like, all right, we can make this now. Why not? Satisfy the fans. And they just left the ML115 license plate in there because we haven't seen that in actually quite some time. Yeah, you can see the exhaust pipe down here, made in Thailand, R19A, so that's the 19th week of 2022. This guy won't have a date stamp because he's a prototype. But yeah, so I'm a little disappointed actually with this Thailand Bertha. Regardless though, super grateful that Mattel released him. Truly guys, I'm not upset that they uncanceled a prototype I have. I don't care that the value went down because I'm not trying to sell it. I know a lot of people, and it's kind of a running joke with my friends. They're like, oh, Disney Docket's going to be upset. They're uncanceling the reindeer. Oh, they're uncanceling Bertha. Now, granted, I think I actually got I knew that the reindeer was coming for a while, and I got my original 2010 version of it after that. So there you go. I just like getting kind of the more obscure rarities from the Cars diecast universe. That's just kind of what I like to do. I love the prototypes, and it adds a whole additional layer to the hobby. Now, I do want to compare her real quick to Polly here. I think Polly's definitely due for a re-release. I feel like instead of re-releasing Matthew True Blue McCrew for the 4th time and Darla for the 3rd, they could have done Polly. Would have only been her 3rd, but her 2nd as a single. Now, by some stroke of luck, she doesn't have the ML115 license plate. They do have the same rims though. So I'm a little disappointed though with this Thailand version. I was going to say variant, but it's technically the first. I feel like their strength is when the cars don't have decals. They struggle with the next gens because they have so many intricate small decals that they have to really work around. And when they clear coat it, I guess that's kind of what causes the blurriness. And so Bertha here, you have no decals whatsoever except for the license plate, which they did do a good job with. But I don't think the eyes are really nice. I think the side view mirrors are a miss for sure. And then what was the other thing I was complaining about? I think that was pretty much it. Yeah, it really is just the eyes. I could forgive the side view mirrors if the eyes weren't so squinty, I guess. She really does look like she's just looking to the side. This one you could tell because the eyes are much closer to the top than they are to the bottom that she's looking to the, she's looking up. But here they're basically centered. So it just looks like she's looking to the side. So I'm a little upset about that, but it is what it is. You guys let me know in the comment section below which version do you prefer. I definitely could see somebody saying the Thailand version as well because it is pretty close. But yeah, guys, thank you again for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon for my review of Dana Crankoff. Bye now. Wait 1 second. I actually have one more comment. I came up with this just as I clicked stop recording. I think it's actually a pretty good thought, so I'm going to share it with you guys. But if Bertha didn't have the clout, the novelty of being a canceled release, on top of that, for 12 years, some releases are only canceled for 6, not even that long. I think Autobahn canceled in 2012, came out in 2016. 4 years for Autobahn, for example. Dan Sklarkenberg was 2010 to 2016, so he was 6. So if Bertha didn't have that clout, I don't think she would be as great and as an acclaimed release as she ended up being. Everyone's like, oh my god, Bertha, my favorite release of the year. Oh, yay. But when it comes down to it, if you remove the fact that she was canceled, she's just like Keith Cohn, just like another Cars 1 new character, new background character. And I might have to say Keith Cohn could be better. They're both repaints. And truly, I think Revney Grillante is better than both of them. Colin Borev is a unique model, so he might even be better than Bertha. But a lot of people are going to disagree with that because she's so recognizable. You could also add on the fact that she's from a more iconic scene than Revney or Dana, and I absolutely agree with that as well. But Thailand, this is certainly not their best work, I have to say. I'm not super impressed with it. Alright guys, that's all for now.